how do you prepare for a bike race, you know, that goes 3,089 miles across the country? I don't know, but whatever we did, it worked out for us.
But someone once told me that racing was going to be the easy part. If anybody can imagine that racing a bicycle across the country would be easy, it wound up that was the easy part. It was all the preparation for myself and then all the logistics of putting this together, the fundraising, all those different things that went into this. It's like, wow, this was a massive undertaking for a bunch of just knucklehead firemen to pull this off is pretty amazing.
Our main goal for doing this was just to, thinking of Corey and what he went through. But then, the larger picture of it was, just to bring awareness to, the increased rate of, cancer in the fire service. Put forth, a good, image, of the fire service in doing this and making our department proud of our accomplishment. And I think we accomplished that.
So for me, one of the biggest highlights was the 2 days in Oceanside prior to the start of the race. Just because there was so much buildup to this race for the past year and a half. We're here, this is actually happening. The meetings that we went to, the inspections, all the stuff that you attended as well. It really made this a reality.
The challenge of it, the camaraderie of the crew, and bringing it all together and just facing this challenge, I think was the funnest part to me.
It seemed like race day just kind of crept up on us, and there we were sitting on our bikes at the start line, and it was happening whether we were ready for it at that point or not. So
what we did at the start line with the fire engine and having Corey and his family there, and I wish that Jose could have been there as well, but that was something I think the likes of Ram had never seen before. I think we did something really special with that. And then right out the gate, reality sets in of, oh yeah, that's what I came here to do. I came here to race across the country.
And they're off. A team of 4 San Bernardino County firefighters began the 3,000-mile race across America today to raise awareness for a cause that's close to their hearts. They're calling attention to the high rate of cancer among professional firefighters.
Well, the first day out to Borrego Springs was 88.5 miles. You start out at the beach, it's 72, nice breeze, You've got a tailwind, pushing you up the bike path, and, so you get out there, the first 10 miles, and you're just like, this is gonna be awesome. And then you start getting into the further inland, and now that cool breeze turns into humidity.
For me, day one was the hardest day, by far. By that afternoon when we were climbing the coastal range, we were pedaling in 95 to 100 degree heat. Couple that with the difficulty of the climbs, and then that first day excitement, that first day adrenaline, and being in such close quarters with all the other teams that if somebody passed you or if there was someone ahead of you, I think we had the tendency to push ourselves a little harder than we probably should have.
Okay, what are we seeing right now?
Right now, we got Sean, who's coming up on this exchange. First time Tim and Sean are gonna exchange with me and Rick. They're just entering this circle right now, so we'll see the chase vehicle come here around the corner first, and then right after that, Sean, he'll ride up past Ricky, and then Ricky and I will take on from here through probably Glamis.
Nice.
By the time Tim and I got off the bikes that first day in Anza Borrego, I immediately started cramping. And I thought, oh boy, this is not good. I only have like another week to do this, and already I'm cramping.
I told Rick, I said, how crazy is it that we jumped out at 116 degrees in Borrego Springs? Actually, that's what we said. And we started riding our bikes in the middle of the summer in the 116 degree heat. And, I said, I don't know how that happens exactly, but I know, obviously we took a lot of time to prepare, over a year to prepare, but I think it's like you have this job, you have a task at hand. As firemen, paramedics, we're task oriented anyway. So for me, I was like, my job is this 4 miles. Okay, I get to rest. Oh, thank God it's cool in here. Throw some ice down my shirt and throw an ice cold rag down my neck. Okay, it's my turn again. Okay, I don't care what the next section is. This is my section. Yeah, thinking it's a little warm outside, so trying to get my stuff that keep me cool on. I got my arm coolers and another cool rag to try and keep my neck cool and stuff like that. But those guys put in some work, so I'll try and keep it going from here on out, and we'll get some more. Nice to get out there and start racing.
All right, so I'm just showing you how it looks here at night when we're still in Eastern California. The field is bunched pretty well together, so we're passing riders as we're trying to catch up to our RVs. So it's just nothing but blinking lights on the right side of the highway as far as you can see.
I was expecting to be a kind of a slow-paced, you're following a guy on a bicycle. So you're expecting many, many hours of tedious boredom watching a guy pedal a bike. It was very fast-paced.
Sean and I started the second morning, so that would have been Sunday morning, outside of Congress. It was like dead calm. It was like riding in an oven.
From then on, the next couple days going through Arizona were extremely hard. I didn't realize Arizona had so much climbing, but it was strange to me in that normally I don't do well in the heat, and I felt amazing. I was doing really well after I got over that initial cramping, and I felt strong the rest of the time.
My youngest son was my navigator for a while, so I got to hang out with him, quite a bit.
The hardest part was, we're in a state that we've never been to, in an area we've never been to, in the middle of nowhere most of the time. Like, you gotta pay attention to where you're going, because all the street signs are weird, and you gotta pay attention to the other cars around you, because I gotta tell the rider what's going on. And so you just have to be constantly head on a swivel, paying attention to everything. As a navigator, I had a route book, and it had all of our turns and the mileage of where we were supposed to go. And I had a radio that I was telling the rider where to go, and I was basically in control. We go where I tell you to go.
Hi, Ricky.
What's going on?
First ride of the day, right?
First ride of the day, I get to Monument Valley, Utah. Made it to Utah.
Because I'd never been to Monument Valley, and that was gorgeous. I actually found myself having to make sure I rode faster just because I was cruising. I was like, oh man, look at the sights, and just, I got to take a couple pictures with my dad in that area. But as far as sights go, the Monument Valley comes to mind.
Feeling good?
What's that?
Feeling good?
Yeah, good. Making our way to the border.
And I remember us sitting down and talking. You asked what was one of my fears going into this. One of my biggest fears should have been about how much sleep am I going to get and how much food am I going to get to eat.
By day 2 to 3 is when emotions start to run high. People start to get on each other's nerves.
You know what? There's a lot of personalities involved, and a lot of tired personalities involved. So it's a race. You do what you have to do to finish the race.
Okay, so this race was one of the toughest things I've ever done in my life. And I feel like as a crew chief, my job was to try to keep everybody going. And I think we all worked together and we did that pretty well. You guys are doing great. How far do you think, do we need to worry about changing the top or whatever? I think one of you guys are going to want to do the downhill right, part of it, break it up. But at times, the things were a little tense, or a little low, and certain people were struggling, if not everybody.
Corey sent us some notes via video, and that he was watching us and following us and wishing us well. And that inspiration truly brought everybody together and got us through some low moments when you can't see straight and you don't know where you're at and you are sleep deprived beyond what you're used to as a firefighter, being sleep deprived, and you're unsure of your environment and what you're doing.
Hey guys, I just wanted to say happy Father's Day and thank you guys so much for doing this for my family and I. We couldn't thank you enough, and especially during Father's Day, I'm thinking about you guys and how you're not with your families, and you're doing this for my family. I'm praying for you guys to stay safe and keep on pedaling, drink lots of water. I can't believe the heat wave that's coming through. I love you all from the bottom of my heart, and I'm still wearing my shirt. So I'm super proud of who you guys are and what you represent. And I love you all so much. Thank you.
Corey sending those videos in between that, I was like, this guy's fighting for his life. So we need to finish this.
It made you realize that no matter the pain or the suffering that you're going through out there on the bike, you're just riding a bike, and it's nowhere near the pain and suffering that Corey's gone through and Jose's gone through with their treatments. So yeah, riding a bike across the country is nothing compared to that. So
We went over Wolf Creek Pass going through Colorado. That was something that I had really hoped I could experience, and it turned out that Rick and Travis ended up doing that climb.
All of us wanted to climb Wolf Creek Pass. I talked to Tim actually a day and a half early. He says, I want to climb. I was like, kind of secretly, I'm like, well, I want to climb it too, and obviously only there's a couple people that can climb it because of how it lands. And midday on the third day, okay, hey, we're going to climb this. So start getting mentally prepared for 12 miles of not fun riding. It's, climbing that steep of terrain for that long is tough on you. Your heart rate's going to scream, your legs are going to tell you to quit. After by day three, your body's just telling you to quit. Like, the only thing keeping you going is your mind. But the sad part is we didn't get to see it in the daylight. But I can remedy that by going back someday. But it was a lot of fun. It was a great experience getting to climb and go down Wolf Creek Pass.
Teamwork was the teamwork and experience. Once we learned what we were doing, because none of us had done it before, the more we did it, the better we got. Just like anything else in life.
I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I felt pretty awful. Day one, not so much, just because it's everything's exciting and the race is kicking off and the adrenaline's flowing. Day two really sets in like the reality of what's happening, and you start to feel it. Start to feel the sleep deprivation. But day three, I feel fantastic. I'm probably running on a couple hours of sleep, but it's better than nothing. And as far as crew-wise goes, everything's going fantastically. I think we're going to surprise a lot of people with just how well we're going to do with this, so I couldn't be happier.
I was to do the meals, provide the meals for everyone, so crew and the riders. At the beginning, I had an idea of, cooking up some meals, preparing some pre-made things. But then there was a case of, okay, we don't have room to store all this stuff, so we were just going to kind of wing it. We're going to have, grocery stores we can shop at, and we technically did. We probably shopped at every Walmart across the whole United States, I'm pretty sure. So we would just run through the aisles. We're like, okay, fruit, nuts, I still can't eat turkey because we ate so many turkey sandwiches. So that was a quick, I think we all worked well together. And I think all of our personalities in the end, we're still speaking to each other, so that's a good thing.
From the start of the race up until Colorado, I was kind of having some issues shifting. And I'm climbing a hill in Colorado, and it was funny, I was shifting, my chain got bound up in the cassette, and I just like tipped over.
He was going slowly up a hill, and it just, forward momentum stopped, and he fell over in the grass. We're like, oh my God, we just killed Ricky. It's like, so we all run down there, we got a bunch of paramedics and firefighters.
Chain got caught up in the cassette, and it just stopped me in my tracks, and I couldn't unclip and get out, so I just fell over. But it's no big deal. We've got spare wheels, we've got extra chains. In the meantime, I'm gonna borrow Trav's extra bike, so all's well.
Yeah, so we put another tire on and got the derailleur fixed up, and Travis took off. Away we go.
Going through the Rockies I saw deer and elk and tons of possums and raccoons and stuff like that. But it was just crazy to see all the wildlife out there. Those helped actually. Days like that when I could see great country. Oh man, that was amazing.
Marv, what's the toughest part of driving the RV?
Staying awake. It's pretty tough doing this on just 2 or 3 hours sleep a night. What really helps is the brakes, every 80 miles or so when we switch riders, that kind of invigorates you and stuff like that. So just make it work.
Getting to Kansas is a little flat, country mile is really long, so that was a little tougher. I was like, okay, let's, there's pretty much it was a head right shoulder wind, kind of what we call a right shoulder wind. So it was just off our right shoulder, so it wasn't a true headwind, so that's good. It's still, you're fighting against it and leaning into it, and going by silos, you're like, oh, these are great silos. Well, all the wind, the eddies around on the silos, you'd be like riding, and you're like, oh, cool, this is good. And then all of a sudden you get a wind this way, and you get a wind this way, and then you get a back wind, and you're like, okay, hold tight, okay. Get past all the silos, and then you can regain control, and so that was interesting, and knowing that I've never been through Kansas.
Been going this way, so it's been a headwind. But other than that, it's been like this back crosswind. It's nice. 30 miles an hour.
I think what I know now that I didn't know then is how bad I can hurt. My legs are constantly sore now. I mean, if I push on them, we were talking about using a roller, I'm like, I don't know, that might hurt too much. I don't know if that would be a benefit. So what I know now compared to then is how hard I could push and keep doing it and get up time and time and keep doing it. I never dreamed that I could do that.
It's a grueling ride, and after 4 days of non-stop pedaling, a team of San Bernardino County firefighters is halfway across the country. Firefighters left Oceanside on Saturday, taking turns and riding for 24 hours a day. Today they arrived in Pratt, Kansas. They're heading to Annapolis, Maryland. The team is racing in honor of a colleague who is fighting cancer. And along the way, they're raising money and bringing attention to the high rate of cancer among firefighters.
Well, they really love it. Different towns across the United States, a lot of beautiful things, but one thing I'll never forget, the amount of people that came out to support us because we were firefighters. It was pretty cool.
So we received a lot of support from fellow firefighters as we went across the country. And it's surprising in a way because, personally, at a personal level, they're strangers, you've never met them. And yet it's not surprising because that sort of brotherhood is what we get into this job for. At least it's one of the reasons. And it's good to see that it sort of never goes away, no matter what time zone you're in.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming
This
out.
is somewhat fun for you. It sounds like quite an endurance check.
You know, it hurts. It hurts so good. I really.
The funnest part to me was just the challenge of it. And stopping every once in a while and kind of thinking back about, wow, we were, 2 days ago we were in Oceanside. Now we're in Colorado. And then later down the road, stopping and thinking, man, we're in Ohio. I've ridden my bike all the way from Oceanside to Ohio. It's like, wow,
It was like a series of long blinks. You'd wake up and you'd be in a different state, or half the time you wouldn't really know where you're at because you're just tired. You've just been watching the road and the riders and concentrating on what you need to do.
We did get stuck in, I believe it was Tropical Storm Cindy or something like that, where we were in pouring rain for a day and a half. And I had the best time of my life. I felt like I was a kid splashing in a puddle. I came back several times laughing and smiling, and everybody looked at me like I was a complete nut. But I had a moment during one of those rides in the rain, and that was a moment where I finally realized we're gonna make it. Because up until then, I wasn't sure. I didn't know if, one of us would get injured or one of us would just tap out, or I had no idea. Anything could happen, an accident or whatever. And I reached that point in the rain, and here I am pedaling my bike in pouring down rain. I'm soaked to the bone, and I started crying on my bicycle.
Initially going, I'm like, yeah, we're gonna get over the peak in Wolf Creek Pass and we're done. And then Missouri comes and the rain and the steep rollers, and then get into Ohio and, oh, it's gonna flatten out. No, now you have the Appalachians coming, and oh, hey, we got these 4 little teeth that look like shark teeth on the map. Wait, they're 1.5 miles each, and there's 4 of them in like 45 or 50 miles,
Our first goal was to complete it. Our second goal was to complete it in under 7 days. That last, day, it's just like, yeah, you're at that point where you just want to finish. You just want to get done, because the finish line is so close. It's only a few hundred miles. We've already ridden 2,800. 200 miles doesn't seem like anything.
Any wonderful thoughts on the last leg?
Quite an accomplishment. I did a great job.
Taking it home now.
I'm impressed.
You guys are my heroes.
The last few hundred miles, we committed to each other, all 4 of us. We're all just going to get on our bikes, and we're just going to do a 4-way leapfrog and just make this final push. And so that's how we finished it. We finished it not as a single rider, but as a team of 4.
Finishing up, girl?
Overall finish.
I think Joe came over to grab my bicycle, and I said, no, I'm not stopping. I said, what? He said, yeah, I'm finishing this thing. I'm staying on my bike.
I think we were revived, even though, like you said, we had hardly any sleep, but we were like, okay, you know what? Here's the finish line. And I kid you not, when we all walked down to the pier that morning, I was at 7:30 in the morning, we changed. We, brushed our teeth, maybe not. We walked down to the pier, and just seeing that finish line, I was like, okay, and texting the guys, you guys, you're almost here. It's here.
There we go.
As we got into Annapolis, it was literally like the clouds parted and the sun was shining and angels were singing, and it was just warm, and it was awesome.
It was a long 3,089 miles. So I think the emotions were kind of a little more, just that we had done it. We did it, we finished it, nobody got hurt, everybody was there safe. It was exciting. It was a great experience.
Man, what a rush that was, crossing the finish line. But immediately, the emotions that we talked about before day one back in Oceanside just came pouring over me, and I put my head down and I started crying. And I'm getting kind of choked up from it now, because that's a culmination of a year and a half of planning, training, preparation, and finally realizing our goal.
For Fire Velo Norton Strong.
From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank all of our sponsors, all the people that supported us leading up to the race, throughout the race, and even after the race. It wouldn't have been possible without you, and so yeah, just thank you so much.
You know, like Corey has been battling his cancer for the last year and a half or so, and the amount of struggle, the hills and valleys, the peaks, the highs, the lows, are kind of symbolic of RAM itself. All the highs and lows emotionally, physically, and then the peaks, all the mountains that we climb, the valleys, being on the desert floor, the temperature highs, the temperature lows. The difference is that those guys are battling it 24/7 for Corey, for the last year and a half. This took us just over 7 days, so we figured if those guys can do it for a year plus, we can do it for a week.